So this is it. We're finally here. My final Final Fantasy VII Remake theory. This is the culmination of all the other videos that I made before this. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. So we see at the end of the game that Zack survived where he shouldn't have, or where we typically saw him as having died. Now, after several discussions with people, I've been thinking over whether our party had moved into an alternate world and an alternate timeline, or whether Zack moved into our party's world, into our timeline. I really do think that Zack moved into their world. The reason being that after talking this over with one of my brothers, he pointed out that the big whisper explosion that we saw over Midgar happened after we saw the stamp package fly around and face the screen. So we saw that Zack was originally in an alternate timeline, but then the explosion happened, which could have knocked him into our timeline, potentially. So that would mean that his original world was an alternate, but now he doesn't have to be in an alternate world. He might be in our main party's world. If that's the case, then this means that there may not actually be two clouds at all, which is what I originally thought. I thought there might be two clouds, and that was going to cause some issues. Zack's cloud that we saw may be our cloud, but from a few weeks before the game actually began. So this would mean that our cloud is very aware that Zack is alive, because we've never seen him imply anything otherwise. All it would mean is that he and Zack were separated at some point. So for example, Zack may have been captured, or he may be even locked up in the Shinra building and we just passed him on the way up, because we didn't see the prison cells this time around, did we? Alternatively, it could have been that they were being chased, and so Zack dropped him off with the Buster Sword and ran somewhere else and came back and he was missing because Tifa found him. Who knows? But there's a good possibility that Zack is alive in that world and Cloud knows it. Either way, it still sets the scene for a parallel story to run alongside our main party that doesn't actually have to interfere with the normal story of the game. The game can still play out exactly as it did in the past, until the end, that is. So my theory is this: Zack may initially head out to search for Cloud, or even for Aerith, and this may be because he's cut a deal with Rufus to work together with him to track them down, or he might just be going after them just to find them. And along the way, he'll pick up allies. So if you see my theory video on Kyrie and Leslie, then you might know that I see Kyrie and Leslie as being reflections of Vincent and Yuffie, and that's why they're the most likely to join him on this quest. And also I think that Biggs might also join them. He's now alive, and some theorists have said that he might even be missing an arm just like Barrett, so he might be a reflection in that case as well. And afterwards these guys might all go out and start looking for Cloud and his crew. Now if there are possibly two Clouds around, then he might be in their party too, but that would be weird and unnecessary. And as I'm even saying this, I'm starting to think that it's really unlikely that the second Cloud theory is going to happen. I don't think that that's the thing anymore, but let's continue. So Zack's party may follow the journey of the main cast, and whereas with the original game we were chasing Sephiroth around and seeing the damage that he left in his wake, I don't think that's going to happen this time. We may in fact be doing that to the second group, because now there's no need for us to see Sephiroth's feats. We've already seen what he's capable of, because we saw so much of him in Midgar in the first part. We saw how strong he is, we saw how powerful he is. He pulled down Meteor. So instead, it might be the case that Cloud and his gang become so incredibly strong that they're travelling around, leaving behind the corpse of the Zolom, so we defeat the Zolom instead of Sephiroth. We're the ones that wipe out the entire ship's worth of soldiers and sailors on the way to Costa del Sol. And their party follows behind, seeing the horrific things that we're capable of and that we're doing, and they're shocked at how strong we're becoming. And there are actually other theorists who have spoken about how strong Cloud and the gang have become at the moment, and I think Final Fantasy Peasant might have mentioned this, that they're a lot stronger than they should be right now. The stuff that we've seen them do, they would nowhere near have been able to do at this stage in the last game. I mean, even thinking of Cloud's Limit Break Ascension, it's almost at an Omnislash level. It's just an incomplete Omnislash, and Omnislash is something that you get after a lot of grinding, after putting in a lot of hours into the actual game itself, but he's already at that stage, or near enough to that stage. So the strength disparity between this story and the others is shocking. And the rest of the game can continue to play out as usual. This doesn't actually change the course of events or how things happen. It doesn't even change Aerith dying. That could still happen. All it means is that as we go along, we might continue to run into Zack or Kyrie, Leslie, Johnny, or even Biggs along the way, and we'll complete side quests related to that, and there'll be some interesting interactions there, and we'll hopefully close up some of that arcs as the story goes along. But the one arc that will never finish along that is Zack's. His arc will still continue because he's trying to chase down Sephiroth and trying to chase down Cloud. Now, where his arc does finish will be at the end of the game, and this is where things start to get really interesting in this theory. Because normally the game ends us with taking on Sephiroth. We take him on in a place that looks just like the Edge of Creation that we saw at the end of the first part of the remake. But the thing is that the Sephiroth that we met in the Edge of Creation in the first part of the remake, he's completely different to the one that we met in the original game. This one isn't sitting there with his shirt off ready to attack us. Instead, he's ready for a chat and ready to ask us for some help. He doesn't actually want to fight. This means that he's not the big bad, and in fact the fact that we've already fought him means that he can't be the last boss anymore, because we already fought him. This is where I think that quite a few people have come to agree that Jenova is much more likely to be the big bad in this entire story. And I really think it's up to Cloud to destroy her. But I don't think it's as clear cut as Cloud just being the hero and being strong enough to save the world or doing it with the power of friendship. I think it's going to be a lot more complex than that. And there's been theories floating around, through quite a lot of theories actually, saying that Cloud has pretty much always been the only one that can save the planet. That's his role within the game. And it's due to the fact that he's not actually just a strong hero, but a weapon. And when I say weapon, I mean a weapon of the planet. Just like the original gem weapon, so Diamond, Emerald and so on. And also Omega weapon, but stronger than the whole lot. Possibly even capable of doing the job of the whole lot. If that's the case, then he's a weapon that the planet will continue to produce over and over again to destroy things such as Jenova and Sephiroth that put it into danger. So the same way that Jenova and Sephiroth will keep coming back, he will keep being recreated, or something in his form will keep being recreated to deal with that issue. This is the reason why we never see any mention of Cloud's father. He's just got a mum. He just popped up, sort of like Anakin. He's just born because he's the chosen one. And whatever religious references that, of course, has with it. And it also would explain why we see him take out Sephiroth at the age of 16 years old when he has no enhancements at all. He's just a normal teenage boy. Based on that, we now come to the final showdown at the end. They're fighting Jenova. And I think that this will consist of a battle not just with a highly powered up Cloud who's 3 times as strong as he would have been normally, or 3 times as strong as he was in the original game, but this time a Cloud which is backed up by Sephiroth and Zack. And I think they're going to fight in a 3-man party at the Edge of Creation against Jenova. And I don't believe that this will end in a blanket happy ending with everybody getting what they want and living peacefully and happy with the song playing at the end. I think there's a possibility of 2 results to this fight. The first one's a possibility, the second one is pretty crazy, so just bear with me. So the first result to this fight against Jenova, where we have Zack, Sephiroth and Cloud fighting against Jenova, is that I think that upon their victory against Jenova, they'll realise that as long as they continue to exist, these 3 men, so will Jenova, because they have ourselves inside of them. So they must either leave the planet completely to keep it safe, or destroy themselves. So if they choose to leave the planet, they'll go on to be these amazing superheroes, for want of a better word, traveling the galaxy and destroying Jenova-like entities. I mean, Jenova's an alien, there's probably piles of Jenova-like things outside that need sorting out. And if they do die along with Jenova, then they die. The second Cloud theory is correct, then he'll be left behind as a sort of blank slate, which the party can look after and can be their consolation prize for losing the real Cloud, but for saving the world. And if the second Cloud theory is not right, then they just move on with life and they just go about trying to repair the world and build a better future for the world as it is. But here's the second possible result, the really crazy one. And this one lines up a bit more with Final Fantasy Peasant's level 10 God Cloud theory, and then it takes it a bit further. I know I'm going to lose some of you here because this is a bit out there, but I'm going to say it anyway. The theory is this, that after we defeat Jenova, she's not completely destroyed, okay, because like before, Jenova just can't be destroyed, she's stubborn like that. The planet decides, you know what, let's just activate the Omega weapon plan. We'll pour all of the live stream and all the planet's energies into a vessel and shoot it off into space. And so it decides to do that and put everything into Cloud, making him a vessel for the planet and giving him godlike power. Now Jenova, meanwhile, will hang about in this unseen realm where the live stream used to be, hidden within the planet and its workings and existence, or between existence and non-existence, wherever that is. But she can't leave it. She's stuck there. and won't be able to influence the world that much anymore. Now Cloud, who's believed that he's won and doesn't want to abandon the planet, he goes on to then recreate the world, but he doesn't want to do it alone, so he creates 3 helpers. And a bunch of stuff ensues, there's clashes there, humanity goes on to re-establish itself and grow back into a full-on thriving civilization. But as time goes on, all these stories of the past turn into myth, and the names of all the people involved and all the stuff that happens gets twisted or lost and changed, and it turns into fairy tale. And listen to this. In this mythology, now that thousands of years have passed, in this new mythology, Cloud, whose name was forgotten to time, is now known as a powerful deity, and his name is Bunavelza. Genova is known as Muin, and Cloud's helpers, who helped recreate the world and they're based on his friends and enemies and their personalities, their names are Etro, Lindsay and Pulse. That's right. In this crazy theory, which I'm pretty sure by now is probably more fanfiction than theory, Final Fantasy VII is not just a sequel to Final Fantasy X, but it's also a prequel to Final Fantasy XIII. Now, I bet you didn't see that one coming, did you? And it's crazy, but even if it's not overtly said, I don't see why it couldn't be implied through side comments or other implications in the game. It's what was done for Final Fantasy X, and it's been done in other Final Fantasies as well, with characters such as Gilgamesh. We are well aware that Final Fantasy's realities can overlap with each other. From Dissidia and from World of Final Fantasy, we know that they sort of exist within spaces that can cross over and touch each other and are linked in some way. So even though it seems far-fetched, it wouldn't be impossible. And considering who's working on these projects, they're the same people who have worked on many of the recent games, there's no reason why that doesn't make it more possible as well. I'm super intrigued to hear your thoughts on these theories that I've been putting out. I know on the other videos I had a lot of great discussions with people, and I'm really interested in hearing what your final theories are. So please don't forget to drop them down in the comments below, and hopefully we can get a really good discussion going. So that's my last theory for now. I really do think that I've delved quite deeply into the Final Fantasy VII Remake and the compilation, and I'm really happy to have even looked into some things that the other theorists, especially more popular ones, didn't get a chance to look into. And if you haven't had a chance, please check out my other theory videos. They'll be linked in either the cards or in the end screens at the end of this video. But for now I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to start looking into some other series, maybe some anime and maybe other games. We'll see what happens, but I've learned a lot that I'm hoping to apply to my own sort of storytelling and my own work moving forward. And I'm really looking forward to more information being dropped on Final Fantasy VII and the compilation. And if there's DLC, that'll be great too, because from then we can start theorizing again. But for now, until the next part or the next DLC drops, that's it for me on this topic. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please leave your comments and thoughts in the comments down below. Until next time.